Thank you. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Renfrew County Housing Corporation meeting on Wednesday, February 14th. It is Valentine's Day, and I wish you all a happy Valentine's Day to you and yours. As we gather this morning, or this afternoon, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on traditional territory of the First Nations. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. We are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Roll call. Gwen?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The roll has been called and we have quorum.
Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, could I get a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting held on January 17th, 2024? Moved by Councillor from Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards. All in favor? Carried. There are no delegations at the time of the mailing. And before we go on to the director's report, I would like to ask our CAO, Mr. Kelly, he has an announcement to make, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee and those watching. It is my pleasure, after a very exhaustive search, that we are now prepared to announce that Ms. Andrea Patrick is our new Director of Community Services, and I'd like to congratulate her on her new role.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. That is indeed good news. Congratulations. I'm over the moon happy that you got this position and look forward to a few more years of working with you. Thank you. Okay, we can go on to the director's report, please.
Thank you very much, through you, Chair, to the board. And thank you, everyone. That was very kind. Certainly, it's an honor to serve in this role, and I look forward to working with this board and committee and all of Council on helping to move a number of our strategic initiatives forward in order to help increase community wellness and deliver some really innovative programs that are going to help the residents and vulnerable individuals that we're working with. The director's report starts on page 5 of your package, and item number 1 is the Community Housing Capital Projects Update, and that is the Renfrew County Housing Corporation 2024 Capital Projects Update. And with your indulgence, Chair, perhaps Mr. Raditz could overview that for the board.
Yes, please.
Well, thank you, Director, and through you, Chair, to the board. So in the attached appendix is the list of projects for 2024. And as you can see, there's 14 projects that we have listed. Of course, this excludes the Lee Street new build and excludes any unplanned or emergency projects. So with these 14 projects, there's a total of $1.9 million that we'll be spending this year on the projects. As you can see, the carryover project being the priority, being the 202 Cecil Street duplex, and again, we anticipate that that'll be completed early in Q2 of 2024. And currently, we have 2 projects out for tender, and in the upcoming weeks, we'll have another 5 to 6. They're in the draft phase, so we will be putting an additional 5 to 6 projects in the upcoming weeks out for tender. And Chair, that's an update on this spreadsheet in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raditz. I did note that there are 4 projects that were not on this list that were there in January, and I understand that they've been moved off the list and deferred to 25-26.
Yes, that is correct, Chair.
Thank you. I will take questions now if there are any on this report. Warden Emo, please.
Very quickly, the 202 Cecil, the quote of 495 and the budget of 545, did that include demolition, or is that just the build from the foundation up?
Thank you for that question, Warden, through you, Chair. That does not include the demolition, no.
Are there any other questions? No? Okay, continue, please, Ms. Patrick.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the board. The second item in my report is regarding the priority projects for municipalities business case. This item was spoken to briefly by Mr. Kelly at the County Council meeting at the end of January. So attached as Appendix 2 is the memo that we received from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, inviting municipalities to apply for additional funding through the Canada-Ontario Community Housing Initiative residual allocation. Part of the parameters around this funding application were that it had to be very much a shovel-ready project. And we worked closely together with Mr. Davis and his team, as well as Ms. Dombrowski, around some of the ideas around stacking funding, and Mr. Kelly as well, to really determine how to put forth the best business case. Mr. Davis is here with us today, so I'm sure could provide some greater detail, but essentially our proposal was to build on the existing plan that we used on Cecil Street in Pembroke, which took a single family dwelling and turned it into a duplex. So we have some vacant land as well as some properties in the Renfrew and Armpire areas where we are proposing to increase our supply of affordable housing and community housing, as well as to revitalize it. And decisions are expected to be made through the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing on this additional funding by late February, early March. So we're hopeful that we will hear something soon. And certainly if we are successful in receiving funding, we will bring a fulsome report to the board with details around the proposal for the board's approval. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any questions? Warden Emo, please.
Thank you. I'm supportive of this. I'm really glad to see it. The question for me is, long-term, are we thinking that we'll still maintain 1,000 units per se, whatever we're mandated to? But in theory, it could end up being, if we have a number of these duplexes from singles, that could free up some land that we could sell at some point to then further develop, or increase the replacement of these properties. So in theory, if we have, for the sake of argument today, 800 properties that house 1,000 families, at the end of 20 years, we might have 600 properties because we've turned a bunch of the singles into duplexes. So I'm just curious, if we could talk about a longer-term strategy as we roll these out, so that we might be able to use some of the surplus properties as revenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the warden and the board, I can certainly inform that we are required through the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing to maintain 1,020 rent geared to income units. So we are mandated to maintain that. So part of our strategies around revitalizing and rebuilding does have to factor in, maintaining that, but also hoping to increase the number of units of affordable housing. As we know, both community housing, which are at a very low rent scale, as well as affordable rents, which are at lower than market, but not as low as community housing rent scales, are definitely needed in our community. So I think our strategies moving forward is to maintain our levels of RGI, but also increase affordable housing stock. And I'm not sure, Chair, if Mr. Davis would like to add on to that.
Mr. Davis, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So we are going in that direction currently. So our new build at the corner of Lee and Douglas is additional 8 units, 12 bedrooms. And so we're increasing our stock, not necessarily rent geared to income, but increasing our stock on the periphery also. Keep in mind we're completing our BCAs, our building condition assessments. And with that information later on this year, we'll have a good indication of what properties we could dispose of of a solution to maybe increase our stock. Even though we're disposing of a unit, we can increase our stock at the same time. And a number of different issues and projects that are going on are ongoing, and I think Director Patrick will talk about it during the MESA presentation. We're looking at expanding a number of initiatives through the programs 2024 and 2025. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Are there any other councillor from Whitewater, please?
Thanks, Chair. I just want to, I understood the warden's question, and if I relate back to our discussion on the homelessness plan that we're currently in the process of generating, it should also identify across the spectrum our long-term or proposed long-term goals for numbers of different units across the spectrum. Is that correct? So that would include affordable, RGI, transitional housing, all of those pieces that have been mentioned by staff so far. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So we have our answer to that, and it's yes. Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Could I get a mover and a seconder then to accept the director's report? Moved by the member from Pembroke, seconded by the member from Head Clare-Mariah. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll go on to the Manager of Housing and Homelessness monthly report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the board. Good afternoon. My report starts on page 6 of your package with the first information item that provides an overview of affordable housing activities that are currently underway and aligned with the county's Strategic Goal 5 regarding attainable housing and infrastructure. Information item 2 was requested by Council at the August 2023 session and provides an overview of the Prince Edward County Affordable Housing Corporation model. Ms. Patrick, Mr. Davis, and I met with Prince Edward County staff recently to further understand their approach. Of note, there is a considerable population and organizational structure difference in comparison with Renfrew County. Prince Edward County and the County of Lennox and Addington are in sense amalgamated regarding the delivery of community services programs, however separate for many other municipal functions. Lennox and Addington is the lead organization regarding the delivery of community services for both of those counties. Another area to highlight is that the County of Renfrew already has a separate corporation in the Renfrew County Housing Corporation that is capable of leading affordable housing strategies. Financially, a key difference between the counties of comparison is that Prince Edward County has a funding model that incorporates loan funding in addition to stacking provincial and federal funding sources. Whereas the County of Renfrew, to date, has not taken on loan financing regarding the development of housing. Prince Edward County has an ambitious goal of adding up to 800 affordable housing units within the next several years. However, the status of these planned projects will be contingent upon the approval of funding applications. Also to note is that Ms. Patrick and I have recently commenced work regarding the next 10-year housing and homelessness plan for the County of Renfrew. We have started conversations with a potential consultant and anticipate to start the plan formation in the early spring. The new housing and homelessness plan will form a strategic path forward regarding the development of additional affordable housing. Moving forward to information item 3. This provides a summary of the centralized wait list for Renfrew County Housing Corporation for the last quarter of 2023. As of December, the cumulative application total was 1,465, showing a small increase compared to the third quarter that had 1,440 cumulative applications. This data only reflects households that have made an application and does not represent the overall community need for affordable housing. I suspect that more people are not applying because of the wait time for rent geared to income housing, and that it is approximately 6 to 10 years to receive an offer of rent geared to income housing in the county of Renfrew, and this varies depending on bedroom size required as well as location. Information item 4 provides a summary regarding tenancy movement for the last quarter of 2023. Information item 5 provides a summary of landlord and tenant board notices and applications for the fourth quarter. Compared to the third quarter, there has been an increase in N5 notices to terminate tenancy early. The notices are a legal communication device, and the majority of these will not move forward to additional eviction activities. The N5 notices increased because of recent activities in the areas of unit inspections and annual information reviews. During this time frame, there were 19 N5s issued due to failure to provide information of tenant insurance, and this is a lease requirement. 11 were due to poor unit conditions, so that would be items along the lines of posing risk to fire hazards or building conditions. And 21 were due to undesirable behaviors. So this would refer to disturbances either caused by a tenant or their guest, a stop in paying utilities, and entry refusals that would have been connected to notices provided for inspections. Information item 6 provides a summary of approved applications under the Affordable Home Ownership Program for 2023. And during that time, 5 applications were approved. And to note, the program is still open for applications that can provide up to $25,000 towards a down payment of a new home. Information item 7 provides a summary of approved applications for the Ontario Renovates program. And during 2023, 14 applications were approved, and this program is currently closed, however, will open again during late spring 2024. Information item 8 provides an update of Renfrew County Housing Corporation arrears, which includes unpaid rent and maintenance charges. At this time, please refer to Appendix 3. Although total arrears are still high compared to 2017 through to 2021 levels, we have started to see a decrease in arrears during the during the fourth quarter of 2023 compared to the fourth quarter of 2022. Information item 9 is a resolution.
I'll go back first and ask questions on the information items. Okay, any question on information item number 1? Let me just grab it here. The affordable housing activities. None. Item number 2, Affordable Housing Corporation overview. Councillor from Pembroke, please, and then Councillor from Whitewater.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Prince Edward County setup with, the borrowing capabilities or the long-range debt as compared to Renfrew County, we have no loan financing. What is the difference or what is the advantage? Is there any one over the other?
Ms. Patrick, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Councillor Giacono. With respect to your question, I think Mr. Burke is well positioned to answer that, and he's kindly agreed to be in chambers today to address some of the financial pieces with regards to the model.
Thank you, Director Patrick, and good afternoon, committee. I believe the Prince Edward County model is a way to try and avoid the annual repayment limits as set out for municipalities. Here at the County of Renfrew, we don't particularly have that problem. We're not near our limit, so I don't see the advantage of doing a scheme like that. I should say, though, to your earlier point about no debt in the Renfrew County Housing Corporation, we do have the original mortgages that were assumed from the province. Most of them are very close to the end of life, but there are still a few of the old CMHC mortgages left for county properties. But the corporation itself does have the ability to take on any debt it so wishes, and also through the county ownership, the Infrastructure Ontario loan financing agreements would be available as well.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
Councillor from Whitewater, please.
I'll defer to the warden if he wants to.
Warden.
Just to add to Mr. Burke's comment, the county, Prince Edward County, I believe in August of last year or July, had gone to the tribunal to uncouple this corporation and I believe another corporation from their corporation in terms of their FIRs. So they now, because as he said, they were worried about their annual debt limit. So any debts taken on by this corporation or another corporation they have do not go against the debt limits. So that's good news for us as well, because that was a ruling by the tribunal, I think in June or July of last year.
Thank you. Councillor from Whitewater, please.
Thank you, Chair. First, I just wanted to say thank you to the staff. I know this was a notice of motion that we put forth in the fall, and it's a big piece to try to bite off, especially something so different. So I just wanted to thank you guys for the time you put in to research this. It's pretty clear the recommendation from staff is not to proceed with this model, which is good. I think the process by which it was studied on will help us build our own internal processes to make sure that we capture the good points. And seeing the progress we've made since the notice of motion on all files, Mr. Davis is as well, I think we're hitting all those checkpoints. And it was interesting, and I forwarded this to staff earlier, at Roma, we heard Bruce County's proposal, how they've done something completely different from Prince Edward County, another way to achieve progress on affordable housing. So you're seeing a bunch of different models, all of them work in their own unique location. So perfectly good, and it has my support. So on with my question. So one of the points that was raised as part of the notice of motion was not just the affordable housing or the rent-to-gear income housing that we were going to have to manage, but how do we support the not-for-profits that may be interested in needing some facilitation trying to build their own affordable housing? Do we have a mechanism in place or a process in place that, or will be in place that could support these not-for-profits? Or aid, maybe is a better word, aid the not-for-profits.
Ms. Patrick, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Councillor Nicholson. Being in day one, I guess, officially in the seat, I can definitely tell you that the nonprofits and some of our agreements with them are needing attention. I'm going to have to take that back and gain more information and bring that back to the board, but know that it's on my radar. And if I may just add, a comment and further to your question, your earlier points, Councillor Nicholson, just to indicate that I think Mr. Davis and I have been working really closely on some of these initiatives and really looking at different models that are out there to make sure that we can learn from other municipalities and take what works in other areas and make it work really well for Renfrew County. And I know, to your point, Bruce County has an excellent affordable housing toolkit on their website, so there's tools like that I think we can really learn from, and we're definitely motivated to work together on implementing those things. Thank you.
CAO Kelly, please.
No, thank you, and I'll try to address that question through you, Chair. So just want to remind, well, it may not be a reminder because it may have happened before you were installed as council. The build at Lee and Douglas, I think this is the third iteration of how we got there. We started that process in 2020, 2019, 2021, somewhere in there. No. Well, the process was, whenever we launched it, I guess it doesn't really matter. We launched the process with a call for proposals from nonprofit entities, saying we had millions of dollars to give to a project should a nonprofit want to build. We had zero uptake. And then we went out a second time and asked for developers to come to us and got the same type of thing. So it led us down the road of building it ourselves. It was not our first desire to do that. The issue, or one of the issues in Renfrew County currently, is there's not a lot of nonprofits ready to go. They're not ready at that stage for a shovel-ready project, and I think that's where they need to get to. And this is what we keep saying over and over again, is that when the federal, and this is even what the caucus is saying, or the Warden's caucus, the money is coming. We feel it, we know it from the feds and perhaps the province, that nonprofits or other groups should be ready to pull the pin when they need to, and they're not there yet in this area, and we're trying to get there. So what you heard yesterday at Development and Property Committee is Mr. Davis and Ms. Patrick have been working together on an expression of interest to see who's ready and how do we get them to a state of readiness. There's going to be a housing summit sometime in Q2 on working with developers and nonprofits. How are we going to get everybody to that point? So I think there's a willingness to work with nonprofits, but they have to be set up and ready to go, and that's their first step. We know there's alliances out there. We know there are groups that are talking about different things, but they're not formally set up in the fashion that's required to pull the pin and get the project going.
Supplemental?
Thank you, Chair. That's great news. And I think the summit is another way to kind of create that community and hopefully gain some momentum. Interesting, at Roma, there were presentations by CMHC that even talked about accessible funding for not-for-profits to get them off the ground. Like money not for building, but for the planning to get to the build. And I think the forum, and whether it's the Mr. Davis or Ms. Patrick, however we're offering that access to that information for these not-for-profits, I think that's an important first step. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Councillor from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I noticed the Prince Edward County, most of their projects were P3, so that there was some private partnerships in most of all of the builds that they've done. Is there any interest or appetite, or are we tracking anything in Renfrew County? Are there lineups at our door to get in partnerships with us? And especially if there's this housing summit and there may be some funding coming, is there something we can do to let local developers know that there may be something coming down the pipe and we'd like you to be involved?
Ms. Patrick, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Councillor Service. We do have developers that are reaching out to us regularly. They reach out to Mr. Dombrowski, they reach out to Mr. Davis. I think with respect to some of the details around your question, perhaps Chair Mr. Davis or Mr. Kelly would be better to provide a little bit more background.
Mr. Davis, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So talking about the housing summit, so we are building this housing summit specifically for developers to come to us. That's one avenue we're going to be looking at. Tentatively, it's for the beginning of April. Location is to be determined, but we're looking at either the City of Pembroke area or the Town of Renfrew area. And also the expression of interest, which we talked about just yesterday at DNP. This expression of interest is going to be specific for developers to say, we have properties within Renfrew County. We already have an interactive map that we can display to say we have interested properties. Is there interested parties or developers willing to work with us as a P3 and provide us examples? And we don't know what they could provide us in the sense of a P3 partnership. Also during at County Council, we talked about a seniors village as a P3 also. We keep reaching out and trying to get interest, but it's a slow go. But I think with the expression of interest, with this housing summit, we'll get the answers we're looking for the P3s.
Any other questions? No, thank you. We'll carry on. Item 3, the fourth quarter community housing registry waitlist. Number 4, the move-ins, move-outs, and internal transfers comparison. No questions. Number 5, the fourth quarter landlord and tenant board notices and applications. And thank you for explaining the N5 notices. It was certainly a big change from this time last year. Councillor from Whitewater, please.
Question just on that, Chair, is that before Christmas we had talked about a backlog in terms of being the provincial organization from processing those N4s and N5s or hearing the appeals, something to that effect. Has that started to see any progress, or are we still facing the same constraints we had before?
Mr. Dombrowski, please.
Thank you, Chair, through you to the councillor. We have not seen dramatic improvements for the landlord and tenant board backlog. Within this statistic category that we're looking at for notices and applications. Notices are essentially a letter on a landlord and tenant board approved form that lets the tenant know that, okay, there's this item that we want to have stop or that we need to have corrected. And the spirit is really to move forward with the tenancy after that. Anything that you're seeing within the stats that starts with an L would be an actual application that would then trigger a hearing with the board.
Any other questions? No, we'll move on to item number 6, Affordable Homeownership Program Summary for 2023. Councillor from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I'm just being lazy here. There's probably somewhere you can look up all of the parameters and the rules for individuals to apply for this program in terms of income levels and who's eligible for what. So my question is not to find out what, but can you direct me where to find out all of the rules for this plan?
Mr. Dombrowski.
Certainly, through you, Chair, to the councillor. At the County of Renfrew website, under Community Services, Community Housing section, there is a link there for the Affordable Home Ownership Program. The rates do change, so in a future meeting, I will be proposing new rates for the board to consider and approve that are set by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. But at this time, without looking at the application directly, the household income would need to be at or under around the low $90,000 range. And I think the part of it that is challenging for some folks that may want to consider this program would be the property prices. So the property, the maximum property that is allowed, the value of the property that's allowed through the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing is quite low in comparison to the reality of available stock in the community, and it's around the $300,000 range.
That's interesting. Any other questions on that one? No. Go on, number 7, 2023 Ontario Renovates Program Summary for 2023. And number 8, the fourth quarter Renfrew County Housing Corporation rent arrears. Okay, now we'll go on to resolutions, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to the board. Information item 9 is the first resolution, and the recommendation is as follows: that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors approve Community Housing Directive 4 regarding internal transfers. May I go ahead with background information?
Yes, please. Oh, I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by the member from Petawawa, seconded by the member from Whitewater. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair, to the board. So to put it simply, the Renfrew County Housing Corporation is currently taking a look at updating and renewing many of our current policies, and we have chosen to do this in a way that aligns with the practice of the majority of other service managers to use a directive format. So what you see in front of you regarding the recommendation for this new internal transfer directive does speak to practices, excuse me, practices that are currently underway, but we've refined a few areas just to ensure that that we're reflecting the way that decisions are made. And that we ensure that there's a level of transparency in that area. Ultimately, the goal is once we achieve a set of probably about 10 to 12 revised directives, that these directives will then be put over on the county's website, where the community will be able to see the way that decisions are made and business is done by the Renfrew County Housing Corporation.
Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Continue on, please.
Thank you. The next item, a resolution as well, and the recommendation is as follows: that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors approve Community Housing Directive 5 regarding chargebacks.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by the member from Whitewater, seconded by the member from Killaloe Haggerty Richards.
Thank you. May I continue with the background? So for the background information in this item, it's very similar to that I just conveyed regarding the prior recommendation, ensuring that we have updated directives so that we're able to clearly show the way that decisions are made in a very transparent way. Further to this directive, you also see attached as Appendix 6, and Appendix 6 provides a summary of the chargeback rates as of 2024.
Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay, could I get a mover and a seconder to, we have a question from the member from Whitewater, please.
Sorry, I didn't know. Are you going to ask? We have opportunity to ask more questions on this presentation.
Which part of it? Sure, but.
Number 7, please.
Sure, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I just noted it is closed. I caught that part. Do we know, was it oversubscribed, undersubscribed, on budget? Any additional information you can provide to suggest what 2024 might look like for us?
Mr. Ombrowski, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the board. The program was closed approximately, I would say, October or November. We closed it quite early because we received many applications from the community. Within that application process, a lot of time was needed for the applicants to reach out to contractors and line up estimates. And we closed the application window because we had a lot of applications. Unfortunately, those applications, some of them did not move forward. And that has resulted with maybe a little bit lower than anticipated uptake for the program. The funding that we have is held within a revolving loan fund, and that money is to be held by the County of Renfrew to be used specifically for Ontario Renovates. In an upcoming board meeting, most likely in March, I will bring to the board the status of the revolving loan accounts for affordable home ownership and for Ontario Renovates, as well as a recommendation to move forward with advertising, that the application window open up to the community again.
Supplemental, please.
Thank you, that's perfect. The next question was just the requirement to get the quotes in order to be able to apply for this Ontario Renovates as an example. How much of a barrier is it? Is it they can't find somebody who knows, or just putting in another quote that may or may not get pulled through? I'm just curious if there's ways we can remove barriers if they are like that.
Thank you. Excellent question through you, Chair, to the board. You've noted some of the barriers that we have heard from folks. Definitely, the process of acquiring those quotes is difficult for some people, and it depends on their location, and it depends on the work that they're looking to have done, and contractor schedules and contractors opting to take larger projects. We have also seen challenges where homeowners have been faced with extensive home repairs, and the limit of $10,000 within this program that we're not able to increase has been a challenge, and folks have received quotes in excess of $10,000, quite a bit in excess of $10,000, which has stopped their application process.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Could I get a mover and seconder to accept the housing and homelessness report? Moved by the councillor from Head Mariah, seconded by the councillor from Pembroke. All in favor? Carried. I have no business. We do have a closed meeting. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by councillor from Petawawa, seconded by the councillor from Whitewater. Pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, for the purpose of A, personal matters about an identifiable individual, organizational review, and B, labor relations or employee negotiations. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Welcome back. The date of our next meeting is Wednesday, March 6th at 2024. Could I get a mover and a seconder for adjournment, please? Moved by Councillor from Whitewater, seconded by Councillor from Petawawa. All in favor? Carried. We are adjourned. Okay. Okay, I'd like to call to order this Community Services Committee meeting. It is still Wednesday, February 14th. Our roll call has stayed the same. Gwen, we're still good? Any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. Could I get a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the previous meeting minutes held on January 17th? Moved by Councillor from Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from Heckler Mariah. All in favor? Carried. There were no delegations at the time of mailing. Could I get the Community Services Department report, please?
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. Good afternoon, members of Community Services Committee. The department report starts on page 5 of your package. Item number 1 is letters from Township of Whitewater Region. This item was held over from our January committee meeting, and appendices 1 and 2 are letters from the Township of Whitewater Region Council highlighting needs seen in their region with respect to childcare as well as water and wastewater system affordability in rural Ontario. With respect to the childcare, I may just, make a remark that Ms. Smith does have some information for the committee with respect to childcare spaces, so that will be upcoming in the report. Also, with respect to the water and wastewater system affordability, I know that this issue has been in discussions between Councillor Nicholson and the warden. From a homelessness program perspective, I just wanted to note for this committee that there is some eligibility for residents who are experiencing potentially an inability to pay or a payment, a bill that is putting them in arrears for utility arrears. So that could include heat or hydro or water arrears. And for those types of situations like that, certainly individuals can apply through our office for the homelessness prevention program. The funding is $1,500 for a family without children or $2,000 for a family without children in a 12-month period. So I just wanted to mention that. I understand that many of the bills are much higher than that and that amount may not go very far in terms of some of the needs, but just wanted to highlight that program. And to Councillor Services' earlier question around a number of our programs, we are trying very hard within Community Services to really update our websites to identify all the particulars of the programs, just so they're a little easier for community members to navigate. We have some online applications and some ability to really see what the eligibility criteria are and help it to be a little bit more accessible. So I just wanted to note that. Chair, would you like me to pause there before going on to item number 2, which is a presentation?
Yes, please. Are there any questions or comments on item 1? Member from Whitewater, please.
Thank you, Chair. And as was suggested by Ms. Patrick, I'll reserve comment on the childcare one. It'll be easier if we discuss it after we receive the presentation. And I just wanted to thank the support from Ms. Patrick and her staff for residents that are in need. It's the letter, and the purpose of the letter from this committee's perspective was to outline it as a pressure and to ensure that there were avenues that could be explored. So I thank you for that, and it's very much appreciated on behalf of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on item 1? No, we'll continue on, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. So this is a presentation, which I'll take a moment just to pull up the slide deck. And perhaps, with your indulgence, Chair, perhaps CAO Kelly could just introduce this project before I start the slide deck.
Mr. Kelly, please.
My pleasure. As you may have heard me say before, this project was born from, well, I guess the impetus was going back to AMO last year in London, where, gosh, I think I was even sitting beside Councillor Nicholson at the time during one of the plenary sessions towards the end, talking about and hearing about the homelessness situation in different communities, London in particular, and some of the other larger urban centers, and formulating in our minds what our problems are and what our situations are in Renfrew County, and how they are unique to a rural and small urban setting. And it led down to a conversation with my three colleagues on challenging them to come up with what does a hub look like for our area. It can't be static. We are a community of 100,000 spread out amongst thousands of kilometers, and we have several urban-like settings, and we have the missing rural, those folks that live out in the nowhere lands that still have mental health and addiction problems and are experiencing couch surfing and whatnot. So what that has culminated in is a collaborative effort that's now before you, known as the MESA project, that Andrea will present to you in terms of her portions. You've heard Chief Nolan speak to his portions and Mr. Davis speak to his portion. But again, truly a collaborative effort, and congratulations to all involved. This is an innovative model that we hope will be something moving forward that we'll be proud of. As I mentioned this morning in another committee, our foot is heavily on the gas on this one, and we're pushing this forward as quickly as we can. But with that, I'm anxious to hear Ms. Patrick's side of the story.
Ms. Patrick, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee, and thank you to Mr. Kelly. As indicated, this is truly a collaborative project. Mr. Kelly has tasked Mr. Davis and Chief Nolan and myself to really look at some of the challenges that we're experiencing in all of our program areas, and really look at how we can work collaboratively in new and innovative ways in order to provide additional services and supports to our residents and to address some of the critical areas that we are seeing. The name for the team is the MESA team, which the term really is representing I guess a steep hill with a flat, solid top. And I think that just is kind of embodies what we visualize about this project, which is leveling the playing field, providing a very solid foundation with the supports around the individuals who are experiencing these challenges. So I think we've talked certainly through this committee and our board about many of the challenges that we see from a community services perspective with regards to some of the emergencies and critical situations that our clients and our tenants and families are experiencing: housing instability, precariously housed, homelessness. And this approach is really going to bring a very collaborative approach to bring some of the missing pieces from the community services perspective together. We know through our point-in-time count and our by-name enumeration study that there's many individuals that we're supporting who have significant health challenges. And by having the paramedics work, collaboratively on this initiative and really leading this initiative from an emergency response perspective, and having access to the 911 system and the VTAC system, as well as with having community services program staff and crisis workers available, we can really address the issues and look at it from a really holistic perspective. We know that although the issues are experienced in higher levels in some of the more populated areas like the city of Pembroke, mental health, addictions, homelessness are experienced in all areas across Renfrew County, and the innovative mobile services that we are envisioning are really necessary in order to make sure that we can reach all of the individuals that we may be seeing that are in precarious situations across Renfrew County. So certainly, you know, from a health perspective, you know, I can't provide the scholastic background that the Health Committee was fortunate to receive from Chief Nolan, but certainly individuals that are experiencing challenges in the area of housing instability and through our programs, we know that unless we can provide them with some safety and some shelter and some connectedness, we aren't able to really help them move forward. Many individuals are very isolated, they're not connected to services, and this is really the center of what we need to work on in order to start then building the supports around them and bringing the supports to the residents that need them. So certainly, I think, you know, this just really illustrates this is very much a multifaceted issue, and some of the challenges that we're seeing are really going to require action in numerous areas in order to sort of move the yardstick. So Mr. Davis is here with us today. I mean, his team that is looking after the bricks and mortar of the community housing buildings and looking after some of the innovation around trying to increase affordable housing supply across Renfrew County. That's a critical element in terms of trying to have more options for individuals to have places to stay. Certainly, we've talked about the health elements that individuals are experiencing, and when individuals are homeless or you know, at risk of homelessness, they're not often able to come on a regular basis maybe to centers. They may not have a family doctor, so really connecting them with the community paramedic team and you know, RCVTAC really gives them that option and that connection to enable them to get the treatment or the wound care or the services that they need from a health perspective. So this approach is really an evidence to action approach. I think that the document that you have printed in front of you really outlines some of the tangible steps that we have been working on in the last few weeks since this was endorsed by Council at Budget Workshop in trying to get this ready to get this model off the ground and get to work in this area. Certainly on the housing side, I think you know, housing can be a range of opportunities. And, you know, at this time, you know, we recognize that we're very limited in terms of the types of housing that we do have available in Renfrew County. We are spending a lot of time in the sort of emergency crisis aspect of some temporary motel stays, and when we're seeing people that are having these needs, we recognize that we need to broaden this. We need to have a range of housing supports that are available, looking at transitional housing and supportive housing, and help people to move along the housing continuum and move towards affordable housing, and through the program to be able to access in time, you know, some of the other programs that Ms. Dombrowski spoke about in her earlier report, such as, you know, affordable home ownership and different programs. So this slide just illustrates some of the opportunities that may be available and that we want to work towards in terms of building a broader system of housing supports between our interconnected departments. In terms of costs, I think, you know, this slide is very indicative of how expensive it is to be treating people, you know, in hospital beds. We see a lot of the vulnerable population that we are supporting that are, you know, showing up at the emergency departments that are, you know, in hospital. And so although there's some expense to supportive housing systems, when you look at the expense, it's a lot less than having people in the hospital. So I think this slide just really illustrates, you know, the money is being spent. We need to look at how can we spend the funds that we're allotted in the best way possible through this interdepartmental approach in order to really provide the right services and the right types of housing supports for individuals as and when they need them. I'll speak just briefly about the Finnish model, which is forming the basis of many of our thought processes around the area of homelessness. Certainly, Warden Iman is more familiar with this and has more to background on it, but in essence, the Finnish model is a housing first model. So this, in Finland, over the course of a few decades, they have decreased their level of homelessness by over 80%. And they really embarked on, systemic change to really look at the first thing that people need when they're struggling with homelessness, mental health, and addictions is secure housing. And what type of housing do they need to suit the individual person? So do they need supportive housing? Are they, eligible for community housing? Is there affordable housing, rental options available? And moving them along the housing continuum. So we're certainly looking, both across Ontario and in Canada, but also internationally, in order to look at some best practices and some innovative approaches to help us address some of the critical areas that we're seeing. And I will pause there, Chair, but certainly happy to take any questions or to invite my colleague, Mr. Davis, to add on in terms of his piece of this.
Mr. Davis, would you like to speak before I open it to questions?
Just quickly, I don't want to overstep my bounds by any means, but we see this issue, especially for the three teams, the cornerstone of a solution or a possible solution is the housing, whether it's transitional homes, RCHC homes, or typically homes we have ourselves. And so the focus, even though it's going to be the push is going to be from the paramedic program, the frontline staff, and you saw that in the super slide during the budget discussions, the major costs, it will be borne by the paramedic program. However, the solution is the housing solution. And so what you'll see in the near future, in probably every committee, how we're going to go outside our typical lanes of looking for solutions, whether it's a housing summit, whether it's expression of interest, or looking at the P3s to find a solution for this issue we're facing today. I'll leave it at that, Chair.
I think the speed with which these committees' directors have put this report together is incredible, and I'm sure Mr. Kelly as well, to think outside the box like this. I know we hear so much about homelessness and mental health, and I mean, it's just horrendous, but to actually put something in paper with a path forward is very commendable. Are there any questions? Councillor from Pembroke, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have to agree with you. The report is wonderful. Looking at some of the statistics in regards to the opioid-related deaths per 100,000 people, we're looking at the Pembroke area, Bonnechere Valley, Laurentian Valley, Whitewater region. I guess that's over a period of 2018-2023. We have 34 opiate-related deaths. Recently, I believe was it Brockville, where 19 people lives are lost due to opiate crisis. To me, there's an immediate drug-related rehabilitation need. I mean, you can take a person to the hospital, the OPP have taken them there. The doctor says, "How are you doing?" "Well, I'm not doing too bad right now." Signs them out, they go back to where they were before. It's just a recurring rolling ball of people using the call system, etc. I know social services are involved as well. They've taken some of the heat off, the calls for police assistance. However, when you look at the reports from the OPP, the number of drug-related arrests, the type of drugs that they're finding, I mean, we're not finding illicit marijuana, we're finding cocaine, heroin, fentanyl. We're finding these folks are armed, they have a lot of cash on hand. Is there a need for an immediate rehabilitation type of source for these people? Are we just fooling ourselves by saying, yep, we're going to house them, we're going to feed them, but the problem still exists? And I understand the complexity of it all. I don't deny what is being done is humanitarian and in the right vein. but based on the statistics of the type of deaths that are occurring, not only in our county, but in other areas, I mean, should the province, should they be looking at something to take over? You know, these individuals are suffering basically from severe addictions who cannot help themselves, and having them perhaps incarcerated or put into a program where they can be rehabilitated. Otherwise, I think we're just fooling ourselves. Thank you.
Ms. Patrick, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Councillor Giacono. Chief Nolan was speaking earlier in the Health Committee, and I'll do my best to share that information from a health perspective. But one of the things that we think will be extremely beneficial about this program is that the paramedics are able to, through connections with VTAC and their health mechanisms, offer Suboxone, which is treatment for individuals that are struggling with opioid addiction and are experiencing cravings. So they will be able to, where that is needed and appropriate, be able to connect those health options and those treatment options to individuals who may be at different areas within our communities and across Renfrew County. The other thing is, I think, this is, what you see in front of you and what we've talked about is certainly a living document. This is, we are all, working together and really learning as we go about the needs, learning more about the needs in our communities and what is needed to have the most successful response. Certainly all of our community partners that provide various portions of the services are very critical to this as well, and we have been engaged with conversations to make sure that they're at the table. So we really want to bring this forward in a way that we're trying to address the crisis that is in front of us, and we're trying to fill in some of the gaps that we're seeing. Certainly not to take over anything that is being done or take over things that our community partners are already doing. We're really just trying to provide some leadership and some support and work very collaboratively with others in the community that can help us and can be at the table as a part of the solution.
Warden Emo, please.
So I don't want to be cold, but I'm probably going to be cold. It's going to sound cold, this statement I'm going to make. We can't save everybody today. And I think we sometimes get lost in that focus and not being disrespectful to my friend here who I've known a long time. Some of the problems you were talking about are long-standing, and it's going to take a longer effort to address them. And I think if we try to save everybody today, that's where we're going to be struggling. So there, I think we have to make some decision points where we pick off the low-hanging fruit that'll get success. The people that maybe their relationships have broken down and they can't afford to live on their own and they're temporarily couch surfing or soon to be homeless, and so there's some things you can do there. At the same time, the longer-term, more entrenched needs, I hate to say behaviors, needs and demons that are driving people will take some time. And one thing I learned over my years is that sometimes that's 4 interventions, sometimes it's 28 interventions before something actually occurs, but it's happened on the 28th intervention because you've built a relationship with them and been consistent. So I think that's probably not the answer you were looking for, but I think it allows us to maximize who we can assist and bring to some kind of normalcy, whatever that is.
Councillor from Pembroke, please.
Thank you, my good friend Warden Emo. I understand where you're coming from. My only query was to look at the statistics before us and the numbers. It's not like it's 1-2, like when you have 19 people in an area taking their lives. I don't know the age groups, could be, my son, could be my grandson. I have some concerns with that, and that was the only reason I was bringing the question forward. I understand the mechanisms in place are there to help, but perhaps because of the the demographics of the number of people in such a short time, that really disturbs me, and I'm not trying to put it on the province, and I know everyone here is working very hard to look after the people within our communities. I think it's exemplary what is being done here, and you could, you could set it up as an example for anywhere across the country. My only concern is the number of people, and it's happening so quickly. And I mean, those numbers do not include, the Picknockwagon group as well. And just recently, I believe the chief had stated that there is an epidemic there too. So what is the answer? I don't know, but those people that are taking their lives, I think they need immediate help, not in a housing situation. They have to have immediate rehabilitation of some sort. And, as the warden said, it's cold, hard fact. You can't help everybody. But is that our due diligence, is to reach out and say, no, we don't want to see somebody's life lost here. We don't want to see another 34 people in our county, deceased over a period of a year or two. We understand that Brockville has had 19 people in a week, a couple of days. To me, that's astounding. And that speaks perhaps for, I'm not saying it against law enforcement, it's an epidemic everywhere. I think the police have their hands full as well. They're doing their best. Perhaps the province should be having some special task force that deals with the opioid addiction, epidemic within the province, and do something about that. Can we allow it to go on, as people around the county and as municipalities? We're trying to help them as well as we can. We have people in a homeless shelter. We feed them. We look after them. If need be, they have social services coming in to assist them, to put them in the right direction. But even so, at times, that doesn't seem to work. And that's my only concern. Should we be doing something a little more drastic to help them? Because obviously they're not helping themselves. I mean, when you go to an area where somebody's deceased, I certainly I wouldn't want to find that. I wouldn't want to be the security guy on duty finding somebody with an, OD'd on opioids that they had a problem with 2 weeks before. Thank you. I'm just spewing a bit, Madam Chair. I'm sorry. I appreciate the indulgence of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions on this? Councillor from Whitewater, please.
Just further to a representative from Pembroke. I know if the chief was here, he'd be able to offer his insights in terms of the medical supports that this mobile unit will be able to hopefully proactively engage before it becomes a 911 or after multiple visits to the emergency center or police. Like, I think from a medical perspective, this mobile unit has the ability to get out and do some part. I don't know if there's any answer yet for the scope and breadth of the problem that you've outlined, but I think this is a great first step, and hopefully, it's not the solution, but the discussion has been started, and I hopefully we'll bring some lessons learned to the table, and we'll continue to adjust as needed. Good. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, and it is, as Patrick said, it's a living document. There are many partners being brought in and will be continually brought in as this program progresses. Any other comments or questions on this? Warden Nemo, please.
Yeah, and just to stress the 24/7 nature of it, because right now the existing services have a sunset period where they go home. And the contact right now is a 1-800 number to talk to the crisis center, and they will in turn let the police or the paramedics know if there's something that's deemed to be urgent. But I think this model just builds on the availability of staff, and then that also allows possibly decrease in police calls and paramedic calls after 8 o'clock at night. So I think it'll have some benefit, but the dependability of it being there 24/7, I think will be one of the cornerstones going forward.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments or questions on this? No, thank you, Ms. Patrick, for your presentation, and Mr. Davis. There is a little mix-up in the page numbering, but we will continue on with the Child Care and Early Years Division report, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee, good afternoon. The Child Care report can be found on page 17 of your electronic package. And the first three information items are related to some statistics. Information item number 1, the inclusion services statistics. Here we have the total inclusion services caseload numbers for the year 2023. And while there are some minor fluctuations, you will notice that there has been some steady growth throughout the year on these. Information item number 2, licensed home childcare statistics. These stats reflect numbers for the County of Renfrew licensed home childcare agency, which is directly operated by our staff. There was a home closure in December with one of our licensed home providers going off on a maternity leave. I can inform that we are back up to 8 homes as of January, as there was a home that was approved by council in our November session, and it is now open. Information item number 3, licensed childcare statistics. So these stats reflect numbers for licensed capacity and operating capacity for the licensed childcare centers and licensed home agencies within the county. We've spoken whenever we're reporting stats, we have spoken about the disparity between these two numbers, and you know, one of the main items being the workforce issues that are being seen throughout our communities, where you know, some of our licensed operators are not able to fully operate at their licensed capacity. There's also it's also showing the children served, total children served, as well as children served receiving the income-based fee subsidy program is also reflected there as well. Information item number 4, Canada-wide early learning and childcare update. So I will refer to this system as the CWELC system throughout my information on this. We wanted to provide updated information on the implementation of the CWELC system in the County of Renfrew now that we're in 2024. As you are aware, the federal and provincial governments entered into the CWELC agreement on March 28th, 2022. That will span from 2022 until 2026 and will provide funding to assist with the goals of reaching an average base fee of $10 per day for licensed childcare spaces for children aged 0 to 5 by late 2025, early 2026 is the goal for that, as well as creating 86,000 new high-quality, affordable licensed childcare spaces throughout the province, and that's relative to 2019 levels by the end of 2026. As well, the system is looking to address barriers to provide inclusive childcare and providing more opportunities to value the early childcare workforce, as well as providing them with more opportunities for training and development. When CWELC was first introduced in 2022, licensed childcare agencies had the option to enroll by completing an application with us as the service system manager. And in the County of Renfrew, we were very pleased to see 30 of the 32 licensed programs opted into CWELC. Implementation of CWELC in Ontario is being completed in a phased approach, and so far we have seen a 52.75% reduction in parent fees from the March 2022 rates that were frozen at that time. The date for the next reduction has not been announced yet by the ministry, but the aim for that final average of $10 per day is to be by late September 2025 or into early 2026. At this time, CWELC funding is being provided as revenue replacement to licensed childcare operators who are enrolled in the system to support eligible expenditures. The Ministry of Education has announced that they are working on a new CWELC funding formula and will be communicating these changes to service system managers later this year, so we're prepared for that. In May 2023, the Ministry of Education provided all municipalities with their directed growth target numbers with relation to CWELC, and as per the table that you see in your package, the County of Renfrew was allocated the ability to create 427 new spaces between 2022 and 2026. The ministry considered demographics, socioeconomic indicators, and existing licensed childcare capacities when determining these numbers for each municipality. And you will see that each space has been designated as either school-based or community-based by the ministry. So to provide some further information about our 427 spaces, school-based spaces are net new spaces within existing schools or in new school builds, and all of these spaces have been predetermined through capital projects planned by the Ministry of Education that have been in the works over the last 5 to 6 years. 291 of our total 427 spaces are predetermined school-based spaces that have either already been created or are at some point in that process. So not to confuse things too much, but it is important to note that those school-based spaces only encompass infant, toddler, and preschool spaces. And if a licensed provider within a school wants to have their license reflect kindergarten spaces as part of their program, which always makes sense when within a school, we have to count these spaces as a half space out of our community-based spaces. So just a little bit of a confusing piece there. Certainly, providers can also have before and after school spaces for children aged 6 to 12 as part of their program, but we have to remember that those spaces do not qualify directly for CWELC funding. Besides the new kindergarten spaces within schools, the community-based spaces are net new spaces created within centers that are not in schools, as well as new licensed homes. So with the kindergarten spaces being created in our new school projects, the new licensed homes that we have opened since 2022, and a few projects that were in the pipeline and approved prior to CWELC being implemented, the 136 community-based spaces that we have been allocated have been fully accounted for. So just also to note on the licensed home childcare agencies, you are aware that there are 2 licensed home agencies in the county. One is operated by PMFRC and the other is operated by our staff. Both agencies are enrolled in CWELC and have been since the start. While there is room for both agencies to open more homes on their licenses, the ministry has only funded service system managers through CWELC for any existing open homes and has very recently informed that any new homes that want to open have to be counted within our directed growth numbers. And that would count as 6 spaces per home because they can have up to 6 children per home. This means that at this time, we cannot open any new homes on either licensed home childcare agency as we don't have any more available spaces. You will also notice very clearly on the chart that for 2025 and 2026, the Ministry of Education has not allocated any spaces at all to the County of Renfrew. I can inform that the ministry did share the direct growth target numbers for all municipalities in the province, and the County of Renfrew is the only municipality in the province that has been allocated 0 growth for 2 years straight. This has been raised as a concern several times to our ministry representatives. I do want to indicate as well that the directed growth strategy through CWELC does not restrict the opening of new licensed centers, but any spaces outside of our designated 427 cannot be supported with CWELC funding, which means that they would not have the reduced parent fees or any other workforce compensation that is associated with CWELC funding. So we are actually seeing this situation right now with one of the licensed centers in Renfrew that is enrolled in CWELC currently, but is looking to open a second space in 2024 that we at this time cannot support with CWELC. As service system manager, we will certainly be looking to support with any other funding pots that we might be able to through other purchase of service agreements, but the parent fees will not be able to be reduced. There's a definite recognition that the directed growth space allocation that the ministry has designated for the County of Renfrew will not address all of the needs in our communities for affordable, high-quality licensed childcare spaces. It is greatly appreciated that this committee and council has been supportive, and we're given an opportunity to address these concerns with a delegation at AMO back in August of last year. I do want to state that we are undertaking every opportunity afforded to us by the ministry to speak to our unique needs as a rural municipality and to advocate for growth, especially considering the fact that we were not allowed any spaces for 2025 and 2026. The ministry has allowed service system managers to formally submit requests for more spaces, and that was done on the due date was September 30th. We certainly did that. We requested upwards of we requested an additional 388 spaces over the span of 2024 to 2026, so we could have opportunities for creation and expansion. It was our hope to have received a response back from the ministry to report to this committee by now, but there has not been a response to date, and we have asked several times for follow-up. I can indicate that all other municipalities in the province have not received a response yet on this either. So we are waiting for more information and news on this front to come very soon so we can plan for the future, and it is certainly our intention to bring updates to this committee as we learn more. That concludes my report, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go back to information item number 1. Any questions there? Inclusion services statistics. Item 2, licensed home child care statistics. Item 3, licensed child care statistics. Member from Whitewater, please.
I think I ask this question every time, so I apologize. Operating capacity is 1,800. We have licensed capacity of 2,500. The difference there, the biggest impact on that difference is staff. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair, to committee, yes, that is the biggest difference. The other area to remember too is the licensed home agencies are licensed for a high number and are not necessarily, so I can tell you, County of Renfrew licensed home agency is licensed for 25 homes, and we're operating at 8 right now, and PMFRC is licensed for 40 and operating, I believe, also at 8 right now. So there's a bit of a disparity there as well, but workforce is, for everything else, it's workforce.
And sorry, if I could ask another question, please, Chair.
Yes.
The recently announced increases in the wages for ECEs, is that right? Is that expected to make a difference, or there still just isn't anybody out there to hire even at these higher rates?
Through you, Chair, to committee, thanks for the question. I think that there is still going to be a very big concern about the lack of qualified people out there to meet these needs.
Okay, thank you.
I think this is a situation that's going to take more than just money to solve. I think that it's going to require some time to get people into these courses.
So I don't have a follow-up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Any other comments on that one? Okay, item number 4, Canada-wide early learning and childcare update. Councillor from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, and thanks for all of the information and all of the work on this. And I'm going to try and be as diplomatic as possible here, but I just find this unacceptable and appalling that we are the only county in the province of Ontario that hasn't been allocated additional spots. And I know you've made application and we're trying, but we're not hearing anything back. So I guess my question is, what can we do as the 17 member municipalities in terms of advocacy and doing something on our behalf? Who do we send letters to? Who do we talk to? what can we do to support the county of Renfrew and all of our 17 municipalities to let the province know we're displeased with this? Like, and is there some way we can, and I know I asked you this earlier today, is there some way we can get statistics beyond the 2021 census in terms of how many babies have been born in Renfrew County in 2022, 2023, and even 2024, so that we can let the ministry know that we do have a lot of children here and we do have needs in terms of childcare. If you look back to item number 2, you can see that our waiting list grew from 131 to 204 in 1 year. And I don't think it's going to get any better. So I guess my question is, what can we do? There's obviously a problem here, and for some reason we're being treated differently than other municipalities in the province. What can we do to change this?
Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee. I think that what we've seen is there's collective advocacy happening at the municipal tables that we sit at in terms of, speaking to OMSA, for example, and I know that members from AMO sometimes sit at these tables as well. But I do think, in terms of our unique situation, we're not seeing municipalities having the exact same scenarios that we are. So certainly I can look, our team can look into some of these statistics that you're referencing, and I don't know if I'm in a position to make that recommendation, but I know that there are other municipalities that have reached out to the ministry, or other municipal councils that have reached out to the ministry. I don't know what the results are, but maybe I'll leave it at that.
Supplemental?
And just if I can get a further explanation, I'm not sure I understood the kindergarten half-day or half-spot program and how that works and how it affects spots that we are allocated here in Renfrew County.
Through you, Chair. Thank you to committee. My apologies for the confusion, and it's quite the convoluted situation. So what happens is when the spaces have been allocated to us, they're either school-based or community-based. So we can't use school-based spaces as community-based spaces, but then we found out that spaces that may be a part of a school-based license, the kindergarten spaces, cannot be counted as a school-based space. So we have to take that out of the community-based number that we were given. And there's been many iterations of this. The ministry kind of makes changes as this is evolving, and just probably about halfway through last year, they let us know that we could use that as just a half a space. So essentially, if a school-based program wanted to open 26 kindergarten spaces on their license, that could be counted as 13 community-based spaces. And I think the reason for that is because they're a little bit shorter time span. They're before and after school. But it's just a bit of a convoluted piece. The bottom line is that all of the school-based spaces that are there, some of those school-based programs are going to eat up our community-based spaces, which they have. We have none left. And the school-based ones, those are projects that the ministry has approved. We have no choice.
Ms. Patrick, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. I think Ms. Smith has done an excellent job of outlining this, extremely complicated system. There's a lot of different nuances, but, I think the bottom line, as she has indicated, is that we don't have any more room in our community to grow the CWELC system, and we're at that point now. As Ms. Smith had indicated, there definitely is advocacy going on across the province. We are very connected with other service system managers, and we're aware of some of the actions that have been taken, in this regard through other municipalities as well as through OMSA and other agencies. I think, if I may offer, I think because we are the only municipality that have not been granted any additional spaces for 2025 and 2026. We are potentially a little bit ahead of where some of the other municipalities are at in terms of facing this critical point. We know that some of our friends in other municipalities are kind of wrestling with limited spaces that they have and getting applications for new centers and new licenses and trying to determine, which get approved and which is the most, what meets the needs in terms of the priority populations. We are not even doing that because all of the growth that was already approved, took up all our spaces. So we're kind of facing this. I think many are realizing they're not going to have the spaces, and they're getting there, but we're there now. Thank you.
Supplemental.
Sorry to monopolize here, but yeah, supplemental, please. So just for clarity on that kindergarten space, so these are not kindergarten children who are in a kindergarten class. That's not the space. It's the before and after school portion of their kindergarten day that takes up a half a space.
Through you, Chair, to committee, yes, my apologies for not being clear on that. It's with regard to the before and after school programming within for the licensed childcare. Yes.
Last one, I promise.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So I guess what I'm looking for in terms of advocacy possibilities is let us know, the municipalities, who we can correspond with, who we can communicate with, and any statistics that you can provide us through the county in terms of waiting lists or birth rates that have gone on here in our own municipalities and countywide as well, just to give us some ammunition in terms of, drafting a letter and who we can write it to. Thanks.
So are you perhaps looking for a resolution that would go from all the municipalities?
I guess so. Are you looking for a resolution?
I'll second that resolution.
Yeah, sure. So what do we do now?
But if it's coming from the municipalities, am I in the proper venue to ask this?
Could it come from the county and with support, requesting support from all the municipalities? So we could draft something, you could draft something with some statistics. I'll leave this to Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I would suggest, what I'm hearing is that staff be directed to draft the resolution, bring it to county council to advocate for more spaces in Renfrew County. So we can draft that in time and include it in the report to county council later this month. I'm sure. I'm sure. I think we could probably do something like that.
Are you happy with that, Councillor from Petawawa?
Yes, I'm happy with it. I don't want to give the impression that I'm passing the buck here and making somebody else do the work that I'm suggesting.
No, well, I think since childcare is a county responsibility, but it affects all municipalities, I think that makes sense to do it that way. Yep. Okay. Do we need a vote on this? So moved by Councillor from Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from Whitewater. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Are there any other comments on this item? Warden, please.
Just a quick question. We heard in the media 4 days ago about audits for childcare. My impression is it doesn't affect us, but if you could just clarify that, please.
Through you, Chair, to committee, thanks for the question on that. So the Ministry is requesting value for money audits be completed on any municipally run childcare centers. So throughout the province, there are several service system managers that are directly operating childcare centers. And so we do not directly operate any childcare centers. So this particular situation does not pertain to us.
Thank you.
Are there any other? Councillor from Whitewater, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm not directing this frustration at staff. So please, you've done a great job of summarizing the situation. But I am extremely disappointed with the situation that we're at hand here. We're basically the Ministry of Education, who's responsible for childcare. Sorry, and I'm not mad at you either, please, Chair. I'm just frustrated. They're responsible for these for childcare, and they're basically saying we're going to give you 427 of these funded spots, but the majority of them are going to go into our schools spots. There's zero in most of our rural communities. So right away, the majority of these funded spots are going to our heavy urban centers, which I understand, but our rural areas are where we have some of our lower household incomes. So there's no support for them. And then to go on and say zero for 2 years, and oh, by the way, they're the only municipality with zero. I mean, we can take a look at the birth rates, but I can't imagine they based it on anything other than maybe they forgot us, allocated all the numbers, and then said, oh, we got to fill those 2 cells, and let's put a 0 in them. It doesn't make any sense to me. In fact, we're being punished in some ways. Oh, like in Whitewater as a region, when we talk about my letter, we have families who one of the wage earners is deciding to stay home and not work so that they can be there, and this is just for before and after school, let alone preschool childcare needs. So what does that do? Well, that means there's one job that's not getting filled. That person might be qualified ECE. Well, they're not going to fill the ECE and support 6 other kids because they have to be there to put their kid on the bus. I can't understand the short-sightedness of this. And I know we're just talking about CWELC now, but to be allocated 2,500 seats but only be able to fill 1,800 of them because we can't find qualified people to fill the seats, well, you're just giving away free seats that we can't do anything with anyway. To me, there's a fundamental flaw in this, and I know we've done a delegation to AMO already, but I just, if the warden or the CAO can explain how we could, a resolution is great, I'm supportive of the resolution, but what else do we need to do to make sure that the people who need childcare in our communities, the fact that our communities need childcare in order to continue to grow, is being addressed? So thank you for the rant.
Would anybody like to respond to this?
Well, I think 2 things at the same time. One is the motion, and at the same time, I'll write a letter to the Minister of Education and also the Minister of Community and Social Services asking for a meeting at Queen's Park to talk about it. And we'll present a business case outlining the number of spaces we have, our requests, and then also what we project our needs to be over the next, like in 25, 26, and maybe beyond that as well.
Thank you, Warden. Do you want a supplemental?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Chair, through you, and it may be somewhat different than that. That's my first response. I was kind of fleshing it out as I was as I was speaking. So there'll be a much more comprehensive job than that.
Okay, any other comments? All right, Greg. Okay, we'll continue on with Ontario Works, please. Ontario Works report.
Sorry, Chair, just before we move on to that, can we come back to the letter that I submitted? Although it's pretty much null.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yes.
So just, I guess, general comments about the report. From the letter's perspective, I outlined to say, what can we do, whether that's a lower tier municipality or us as an upper tier municipality, to increase childcare access in Renfrew County. And based on what has been presented, I don't think there's anything we can do. And I'm looking at staff there. We have $1 million in reserve for childcare implementation. I can't remember the language that we discussed in budget. We have $1 million set aside. We have a drastic need. But and I don't know, maybe the other members of the committee, is there anything that we could do to affect access to childcare within Renfrew County right now? We have the money. That's all we have. Is that right?
Margot, Andrea.
Through Chair to committee, a difficult question. I hear what you're saying with regard to the reserve. The reserve is I think somewhere around that amount that you were talking about, to my understanding, and was is there to assist the sector where it's needed. I'm not really sure what could be done with that to assist at this time. With the lack of spaces that we don't have, there's not much that we can do to help support the system. And as mentioned before, the workforce crisis is such that I don't think that it's people lined up at the door waiting for a higher wage per se. I fear that there's not enough people at the door. So I'm not sure if anybody else has any ideas, but that.
Ms. Patrick, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. Just to add on to what Ms. Smith had said, I guess in terms of, what are the options available for this committee. So we can continue to grow childcare, just not within the CWELC system. So within the full fee system. There are, as Ms. Smith had indicated, there's a center opening a new location in Renfrew based on needs, but that will be full fee spaces. We cannot grow our licensed home, which is probably the easiest or the most, the easiest option and the quickest to get off the ground for rural families. That we cannot, because we only have, one system, which is through the CWELC. We're licensed through the CWELC. So really our only options are around growth in licensed centers full fee. And as Ms. Smith had indicated, we do have room for children within some of the existing childcare centers, but there is not the qualified staff for those centers to expand up to their licensed capacity. Thank you.
Member from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. And you may have to correct me on the rules and regulations around a daycare and the number of qualified staff that are mandatory and the number of unqualified staff that they can have depending on the number of children they have. So I know that not everybody in there has to be an ECE, that they can have a certain percentage of just regular employees who come in and participate in the care of the children. Is there a way that we, the county, can advertise? Because I'm not sure a lot of job seekers are aware of this possibility, that you don't need to have an ECE qualification to go and work in some of these facilities. And I'm not sure what other qualifications they need. But is there a way that perhaps the county or municipalities can advertise that? And I'm thinking of Bamunji, where there are rooms that aren't open because they don't have sufficient staff. But if there was a way we could advertise to job seekers in the county to say that we need you to come and work in our child care centers to increase our child care spaces.
Through you, Chair to committee, I think where the difficulty is the lack of the qualified RECE staff. So you're right, there are, and I don't have them right in front of me in terms of the ratio of qualified RECEs versus non-RECE staff that can work in a room in a licensed center. But where we're seeing the shortage is the qualified RECE staff that are required to be in there.
Member from Pembroke, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I certainly sympathize with the mayor from Whitewater. However, pending the letter that the warden has said that he will, write to the individual ministries to get a clarification. hopefully attachments of your letters that show the, you know, the need within the smaller rural communities as opposed to the urban ones. There's a need there, obviously. Perhaps there may be some sort of resolution. I truly believe that. And the fact that perhaps we've been overlooked, you know, how come we're not getting them? Are we so flush with other funding for other programs that they've just decided to say, no, they're okay? I think perhaps there would be a clarification. I know the warden will go to bat for all of us. And coming from the urban center and being separated city, I certainly understand your complexity with the issue, and certainly we will support you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? No? Okay, continue on with the Ontario Works report, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. The Ontario Works report starts on page 21 of your package. And I have just one information item for you in this report, and it's regarding some Ontario Works caseload statistics with a number of charts that I'll walk through briefly with you. The first chart is the caseload summary over the past 2 years. So we've included the last quarter of 2023's caseload numbers, and you will note that basically steadily since 2022 up until current, the caseload has been steadily increasing. We did have a reduction in our Ontario Works caseload during the pandemic as a result of the federal benefits that were available. However, you know, since those benefits had ceased post-pandemic, we've seen the numbers, you know, gradually but steadily increasing since that time. And we finished off the year 2023 at caseload numbers approximately the same as what they were pre-pandemic. The second chart is just regarding an age distribution so that you have a bit of a sense of our caseload across Renfrew County and the ages of the recipients. The next chart is a family composition chart, so you will see clearly that the majority of Ontario Works recipients are single individuals, followed then by sole support parents. And the last chart I've included here is some data, you know, in somewhat real time for you, resulting from the Employment Services transformation. So as this committee will recall, the Employment Services transformation took place effective October 1st, 2023. And at that time, the mandate was then to connect any Ontario Works recipients who were ready to participate in employment readiness activities or jobs, to connect them with Employment Ontario offices across Renfrew County, and for our staff to focus their time on working with individuals who were not referral ready and who needed some greater support in the areas of life stabilization. So in October, we had 187 of the approximately 1,200 recipients who were employed and were reporting earnings to our program, and the monthly average earnings was just over $1,100. So just clarity for this committee, based on family size, many individuals can be working part-time or full-time and receiving, you know, a small top-up from us. Their earnings are reported monthly, and then they are calculated, their entitlement is calculated after earnings are deducted. Moving on to the portion that is in green with regards to the referrals. So since we went live with Employment Services transformation up until the end of January 28th to be exact, our office across Renfrew County has referred a total of 174 individuals across Renfrew County to Employment Ontario. So the referrals are sent to Serco Canada, which is the service system manager, and then they connect them with the various Employment Ontario agencies in Renfrew County, Algonquin College, PMFRC, and On Track in Renfrew and Arm Prior, which looks like a monthly average of 44 referrals a month. I think those numbers are excellent. I think they are higher than what I would have anticipated. We have approximately 100 new applicants onto Ontario Works a month. So that would be, you know, looking at that would be close to half being referred to Employment Ontario. I don't think that, it probably isn't half of new referrals, because there would also be people who are existing on Ontario Works that staff have been working with them that have then been referred. So there will be a bit of a catch-up period since we've gone live to have individuals that are on our program, getting them connected with with Employment Ontario, and then continuing to refer on a monthly basis as we have new individuals that are coming onto Ontario Works and becoming eligible for financial assistance. So we've had some, really good working relationships. We have a super meeting on Thursday, which is all Employment Ontario agencies across our region, which is Kingston, Pembroke, with Circle Canada. So that will be all agencies to talk about referrals and communications and any issues around technology. But generally speaking, in Renfrew County, the transition has been very smooth, and we've had good communications with all parties. And that concludes my report, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on information item number 1? No? Yeah. I was going to say there's only one information item. Member from Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a comment in regards to the graph that shows age. What's really alarming is the last two of the last 3 columns, the age groups of 30 to 39 and 20 to 29, which leads me to believe, what is the future going to be like for those individuals? Like, do they just keep going up the graph? What recourse do we have to prevent that from staying that percentage or reduce that percentage? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Mayville, and through you, Chair, to committee. Definitely an astute comment and observation. I think that some of the age that we see there, I mean, it's hard to draw any parallels, but I certainly think that we are seeing some concentration with some individuals who have been connected with social assistance programs that may be struggling with some of the health challenges that we spoke about earlier in the presentation. So we are hoping that really a holistic view of what individual needs are that we're seeing, whether they be health, mental health, addictions, as well as, connecting those who are able to get to Employment Ontario with those opportunities. So I think we have some of the right supports, in place, and we're heading in the right direction as far as some of the new initiatives that we're embarking on to really take a look at some of the data and I know through the paramedic team, and we've already started to look at some cross empirical data to really research and mine this out, but hoping that we have some of the right supports and initiatives in place to really keep an eye on that and to provide the support that's needed.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can I get a mover and a seconder for acceptance of the Community Services Department report as a whole? Member from Whitewater, seconded by the Warden. All in favor? Carried. There is nothing for new business. No. And there is nothing for a closed meeting. The date of our next meeting is Wednesday, March 6th, 2024. Could I get a mover and a seconder for adjournment, please? Moved by the member from Pembroke, seconded by the member from Head Clare Mariah. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.